Everyone has a story.
Pretty crazy evening. Hustle and see the fire that has fallen.
We all take a different path and face different hurdles. I'm your host, Sarah Strackhouse, and in this show, I get to interview inspiring women who are dedicated to making change.
The world is tough, so be tough.
Welcome to the Strackhouse. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Today's guest is incredibly inspiring. Her name is Nejdl. She's the founder of Families to Freedom, which is an organization dedicated to taking women and those who are in a domestic abuse situation and taking them to safety. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today.
What an honor to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me, Sarah.
Absolutely. Well, I remember interviewing you when I worked for CW and just loved your story. Tell us a little bit about what Families to Freedom is.
Right. So Families to Freedom is a nonprofit based out of North Dallas, Texas. Our mission is to transport victims of domestic abuse to safety, whether that's to a domestic violence shelter across North Texas or to friend or family's home for a long-term support and care after escaping a domestic abuse situation.
Wow. So how long has this been going on, and how did you start this? Tell me about the birth of, Families to Freedom.
Yeah. So for me, it started when I discovered how many women and children are turned away from domestic violence shelters across our state of Texas due to a lack of space. The Texas Council on Family Violence, which has been studying domestic violence in Texas for 30 years, they report every year on some of the shortcomings of our system, of our state, and domestic violence, and what some of the issues are that our victims are facing. And they reported that 39% of callers to domestic violence shelters across the state of Texas were turned away due to lack of space. That's heartbreaking for me because I'm thinking of my fellow Texan sisters that are afraid, they are beaten down, they've lost hope, and for just a moment she's got just enough strength and fortitude to say, you know what, I'm going to reach out for help, I'm going to make a change, just to be told that there's just no space in the shelter for her. Rather than just looking at a sad statistic and going, oh, that's too bad, and then moving on to the next thing. I don't know if it was the time of year or just a God thing in my brain or just where I was in life, but it just bothered me so much. I was like, you know what, I could do something about this. I could help a lady get to the next available shelter. If the shelter in her town doesn't have any room, what about the shelter in the next town over? What if there's a couple towns over and there's an empty bed? How tragic is it that she's afraid in her hometown of her abuser and there's an empty bed waiting for her she doesn't know about, that's just a little bit far away. So if I could help one or two or three people, that's great. And then that idea turned into, what about helping hundreds over, I don't know, however long we can keep this going. So that was really where it began, was just discovering the problem and figuring out that, I could solve this problem. I can drive somebody to a shelter.
Right.
I can make a change. And that mentality, that mindset just kind of drove me to building things step by step. Okay, what exactly is a bylaw? How do I find board members? What document do I need to fill out and turn in? It's been a learn as I go and build as I go adventure, really. And then that kind of brings us up to today.
I love that. So how many years ago was that you started?
So let's see, we officially launched in October of 2015.
Okay.
So we're just about at our 5-year mark.
That's incredible.
I know.
That's incredible.
It's amazing to me when I look back and go, wow.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Well, so tell me a little bit about the process, kind of how it works, if someone is in a dire situation, what they need to do to get themselves out of it.
Right. So, and it depends on a person's situation. Obviously, if somebody's in imminent danger, you need to call 911. You need to engage in the police. But if you're not in imminent danger, if it's not a 911 type of a situation, you can certainly call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and they can give you resources for your area. Now, here in Dallas-Fort Worth, there's not one number that anybody can call. You could call your local domestic violence shelter, you can call your police department, and they can direct you to whatever's in your area. And I say that because There are 10 domestic violence shelters in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Denton Metroplex area. There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot of support for victims in our in our town.
And for those to be full is shocking.
It is. And I guarantee that happened yesterday and probably again today and Monday, because of every caller that we received this week so far. I said, I've called. Yes, I've called them. Yes, I've called them. Yes, I've called them. And they say they're all filled up.
Wow.
And then they come to us and we say, okay, well, let's expand your search and see what we can do. So I think first step is to reach out to anyone and everyone, whether it's your church, whether it's a domestic violence shelter, whether it's a police person. Reach out to somebody and say, I need help. They will guide you or direct you to somebody in your area, whether it's in Garland or Fort Worth or up in Denton's shelter. From there, from our perspective at Families to Freedom, you call our number, 972-885-7020, and we'll talk through the situation. Where are you at? Where is it that you need to be? If you aren't able to leave the Dallas area because of shared custody or an ongoing legal business, we'll talk through what are your safe options. Where are the shelters at? Maybe you're not aware of a shelter that's in a suburb that's on the other side of town, and we can expand the search in that way.
Right.
Once your legal business is done or your shared custody's worked out or whatever's going on, then we can talk through, well, where else could you go?
Yeah.
Do you have family somewhere? Do you have a cousin that he doesn't know about? Did your mom move into a new place that we can get you to her home or her apartment? Do you have a friend that you can go to? We start talking through where are the long distance options.
Right. Wow. So let's talk a little bit numbers. How often maybe do you get calls, or do you actually take people out of these situations?
Both. So we some days are busier than others. I'm telling you, some days, let's see, gosh, it was about a couple weeks ago, one of our office members, Suzanne, she had taken in, I think, 10 or 11 new callers all in one day. And she said, I walked into the office because I was out briefly and I came back in, and she said, oh my God, it's been so busy.
Oh my gosh.
But not every day is like that. Yesterday, I think we had 2 or 3 new callers, and that was it. So, and 2 of them are on their way, and the other one is waiting for a departure.
Wow.
Some days are really busy, some days are not. Right now, we're averaging about 550 women and children and a handful of men that we help every year on a consistent basis.
Oh my gosh.
We're also averaging about 1 departure per day on average. So right now, let's see, we're at just about at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And we've now fielded or completed 34 trips for this month. So we're not at 30 days yet, and there's certainly no months with 34.
Right, no. 31, 29, 28.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Of those 34 trips that we're managing or fielding, 2 of them are scheduled to go. So one of them is on her way right now. One more is scheduled to go this evening. And the week is not done. So who knows, by the end of this week, we could have a few more added to that going to shelter or being ready to go. We've had only one person this month cancel her need to go. We helped her get into a domestic violence shelter just outside of DFW. She met the staff and counselors. Although she originally intended to go to another state to be close to family, once she got in and got talking to counselors and kind of got situated, she said, you know what, I love it here. I love the women here. They've got a plan. We're working on an apartment. I feel like this will work better for me than going to this other place. And I appreciate that you bought a ticket for me, but I think I need to stay here where I know I've got resources.
Yeah.
And I said, that's great. You do that. I'm so glad that you're happy. I'm glad you're getting the help. We've gotten, I don't know. I don't want. I'm going to be careful with my words.
Yeah.
I can't say an agreement or a partnership because that's a little bit legally strong. But
sure.
We have sort of an unspoken
understanding
arrangement, with Greyhound of Dallas, where they have allowed us, where somebody's canceled their need to go, that we can save that ticket and give it to the next victim who needs to go.
That's incredible on Greyhound.
Yes,
really
yes, it is.
you
I
guys.
am so grateful for the managers at the station at Greyhound in Dallas to allow us to do that, which is great because then on our end, there's no hard feelings for somebody who changes their plans or decides that being in shelter a little bit longer is better for her.
Yeah.
We're not looking at it like, oh, you just wasted a ticket. So we're like, that's okay. Someone else will need to go, and we'll just save that for that person.
I feel like it sounds like it's a roller coaster ride. A lot of high emotions. It's great. You're helping people, but sad, to see that all of this is happening.
Yeah, it is a little bit bittersweet.
Yeah.
it's sometimes if you think about it too much, if you dwell on the stories of he did this to me and I've got broken ribs and he broke my fingers and when you look at all the bruises, the huge black eyes I've seen, that our drivers have seen, it can weigh you down. If all you do is walk home and think about all the ills and burdens of the world, it's going to weigh you down. I think of it as bittersweet. It's a real bummer that all these abusers are doing all this damage, but we are here.
Yeah.
We are able to make change. The handful of people every day that call us, we're able to say, yeah, we can help you get to the shelter, or we can help you get to family, or we can talk through safety plans or guidance, or redirect you to agencies that can fill the gaps where we can't fill in.
Yeah.
We can't pay for rent, for example, but we do
Sure.
get people who call in and say, he keeps finding me. I got a new apartment, but this apartment's more expensive and I can't meet the rent. And I say, I can't help you with that. But our friends over at St. Vincent de Paul, or our friends over at Catholic Charities, or our friends over at MetroCrest may be able to help you. We can redirect the survivors to local resources that maybe can fill those gaps.
Speaking of money and resources, how much does it take to keep you guys afloat, to keep helping all of these women, all of these people? If people can donate, what's a number or numbers
right.
that you can tell them?
I don't know. I don't know if this is like the right thing to say. I might get in trouble for saying this, but it is shockingly little. Unlike a lot of nonprofits that have, $1 million budget every year, things like that. Right now, we're at less than $150,000 annual budget to do all that we do.
Wow.
And that's with helping 550 women, children, and a handful of men every year. I think the biggest reason for that is how lean it is to operate. All we need is gas money. All we need are Greyhound tickets.
Yeah.
We're not trying to maintain an expensive building. We're not paying for property. We're not. There's a lot of services that other nonprofits are taking care of, and all we're doing is transportation.
Right, and you're keeping your overhead down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So right now we are an all volunteer organization. There's
Wow.
no staff at Families to Freedom. Nobody's paid. We are powered by the generosity of time of volunteers across the Metroplex. A lot of those volunteers are out of the Dallas area. I'm hopeful that I can find more people out of South Dallas, more people out of the Tarrant County, Arlington, and Fort Worth area, because we certainly get callers from all over.
Sure. So if people want to get involved, either to donate or to be a volunteer or just to help out, what's the best way to go about that?
Oh, right. Families2freedom.org is our website. So let me just say that real slow for anybody who didn't catch that the first time. It's families with an IES, TO, freedom.org. On there, you can see all of our financials. You can see all of our services, our eligibility, our criteria for service, all of that's out there. But under in the drop down for support us is a page to be a volunteer. There's a video that talks about how is it dangerous to be a volunteer driver? No. We have 50 volunteer drivers right now on our team across the Metroplex. We haven't had any incidents of danger or of injury or anything like that.
Yeah.
We've never had a shootout or a car chase or anything that most of us would want to see in a movie.
Right. But not in real life.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the place to start is on our website. You fill out a short form. I might call you and ask questions like, "Hey, so what interests you about being a volunteer? What what's going on that affords you the time to be a volunteer?" And then we set up for orientation, and then we do training, and the rest is history.
Wonderful.
It just gets started from there. Yeah.
Oh, I really love that. Well, I have just a couple more questions for you. So right now you're in the DFW area.
Yes.
Are you planning to expand or hoping to expand, or right now just focusing on this area?
Yes, I do want to expand. I don't know how much I can say, but we are talking with a shelter out of Wichita Falls to see if we can expand our processes and our procedures and our brand to victims that are in more rural northern parts of the state along the Red River. What I learned from the executive director up at First Step Shelter is that they get dozens of calls every year from women that are in very rural small towns. The type of town where everybody knows everything and everybody knows everyone. They get calls from victims who say, "I'm not safe, I need shelter, you're the only shelter in your 2 or 3 counties away, how do I get to you?" And they just don't have a way to solve that problem. So with Families to Freedom coming in to help out with First Step in Wichita Falls, maybe we can help those dozen or more victims get to the shelter so that they can be safe. And we can expand the transportation services that are already that we already provide, but it'll just be a little bit faster and easier out of the Wichita Falls area. I'm hopeful that someday we can have enough funding to launch services out of the Houston area, which will be huge. If you were to take all of the North Central Texas area's population, plus all of the Houston metro area and the counties north, that is 46% of our state's population.
Wow.
And it happens to be where all the fatalities, the majority of our fatalities due to domestic violence are located. Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area is number 2 in the state for domestic violence-related fatalities, right behind Houston area.
Wow.
So we are in exactly the right place to have started Families to Freedom. We're gonna venture a little bit north out towards Wichita Falls to the rural area. And someday, if we can just find a funder, if we can just find enough money to launch services down in Houston area, that's the next place that I would love to be able to help out at.
And maybe someday go national.
Yes.
Need an organization like yours national. That's incredible.
Yes. And there's no reason that we can't be. Unlike a lot of brick and mortar nonprofits, there's no reason that we can't be everywhere, helping victims everywhere.
Unbelievable. I love that. Last question I have.
Ma'am.
If I knew you better, what would I ask you?
If you knew me better.
Yes.
Oh my
gosh. It stumps people, so no worries if you need a second to think about it.
You knew me better. So are you asking what do you want to know about me? Or?
Yeah, like what would the viewers want to know about you? What makes you so passionate about this?
Well, I can tell you this. I have lived a very interesting and rich life. And by rich, I just mean diversity. I've come from humble beginnings, trailer park, cheap apartments, cockroaches in the cupboard type of upbringing. There was no college savings, so everything that I've done in my life has been hard work and dedication. Now I'm living in a suburb of Dallas, which I never in a million years would have believed that that's where I would end up in life based on where I began.
Right.
I've had troubles in my childhood home, due to alcoholism, due to depression in the family, not domestic abuse, not domestic violence, but I truly do understand the struggles that victims go through, having lived through some of these struggles myself as a child, having worked hard to say, you know what, I need an education, I'm going to work hard to get that. I need a good job, so I'm going to work hard to impress an interviewer or do whatever it takes to get to the next place.
Right.
But I'm also not ruthless, I've got a heart, so I'm not going to slash tires to get to the top of a corporate job and burn out people in order to muscle my way forward. So
right.
I guess that's where I am, is just, I've come around to realize that, I've created a pretty good life. And now that I'm pretty content with where I am, what can I do next? Who can I help next? And if I can help women and mothers live a better life, maybe they can themselves be better contributors to society. Maybe they can go to college. Maybe then they can get a good job and contribute towards our economy.
Yeah.
Maybe their kids can do better in school and have higher graduation rates and lower drug use. And maybe things will just be a little bit better if I can just help more people.
I love that. Truly a ripple effect.
Yes.
I really, really love that. Yeah, well, you're so inspiring. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for allowing me to be here and being a voice for women who need to know that you can do this. You can do this. There are so many hardships and struggles in all areas of life, whether it's career or spirituality or just life motivation in general or being a parent. There's so many struggles, but no matter what struggle somebody's facing, there's a way to get around it. There is always a way.
I love that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, with that note, I goosebumps, leaving hopefully everyone with goosebumps. Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you as well.
All right. Join us next time for the Strackhouse. Thanks so much for watching, and we hope you leave feeling inspired. If you'd like to nominate an inspiring woman, email me at sarahstrackhouse@gmail.com. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next time.